Alright guys, Matt with Thrive Off Grid. Alright, so I have a new product coming to market and a product concept that is going to get scrapped. And that was the gasifier kit. I was going to put that on market. I went through all the development, and I'm just not seeing it as a viable product. Because honestly, if you need a kit to DIY a gasifier, you probably shouldn't be building a gasifier in the first place. There are plenty of plans that are available. If you're wanting to do this on cheap, because usually that's why everybody wants to buy a kit, because they think it's cheap, but that's just the contrary. In order for that kit to be available, it's got to be worth the builder's while. And there's no builder that's skilled labor that's going to do this for free. So you're going to pay for that kit. You are way better off finding the parts, the tanks and everything, and just doing it yourself with plans that are widely available on the internet for free. Or you can buy Ben Peterson's book, which is based on the other guy that ripped them off. So there's better ways to DIY a gasifier. If you want to go that route, seriously, just get the plans. You know, the invert plans have been around for, like, I don't know, half a century. You know, and that's where all of us builders start out, is with those basic plans. So there's a book called, I forgot what it's called now, Gasifier Engine Systems or something. It came out of college out of Colorado back in the 60s, and by a gentleman named, I think he went by Mr. Reed. And that is the basic foundation of an invert gasifier. And those plans, that is really all you need. You find that printout, it's free, it's online. In fact, it's even on my website. In the forum, you can download, there's a download link for it. And they'll tell you everything you need to know to build a gasifier. You don't need to buy a kit. You need those plans, is what you need. Alright, so I'm going to scrap what I was going to call the VersiFire. This product here is going to take that name. And one thing I want to explain, give you a little backstory on VersiFire and what that is. Well, originally, back in like 2019, when I was developing that power cube thing, that was going to get the VersiFire name, and that actually had its own brand. It wasn't just a product name. It's actually its own brand. It's got its own company. All right. So here, even though it's going to be a brand, it's also going to be kind of like a part used here with Thrive Off Grid, but it actually could branch off and become its own company. So that's why I need to use that name, and I need a product to fit it. And you know, the original concept, that was a failure. Then it evolved into a gas storage system, and that was really cool, and it worked and all, but it wasn't viable as a consumer product that was manufacturable. It would have, if it broke, it would require service technicians. You know, I'm just a small shop in Michigan. I'm not going to be able to service this thing worldwide. You know, I'm not going to be able to fly a technician over to Japan to, fix this thing. Or hell, even somebody in my own state, it would be hard enough. So it's just not, it isn't a product that is, my company infrastructure isn't evolved enough to support a product that would require that type of servicing. And then it was a complex machine. It had controls that were pretty sophisticated. And then there is issues with tar. We never were able to do longevity testing in order for this thing to even be put on market. You know, realistically, it should have been tested in the field for like 5 years. You know, I don't have 5 years to put something on the market. So then it evolved into some other things that I was gonna call the VersiFire, because you know I had whatever I developed for the VersiFire branding, it was gonna have more than just one function, right? In order for it to be versatile, you know. So, all right. So fast track till now, I developed the gasifier, and it's just I've been trying to get myself to bring it to market, but I just can't. It's not something that I feel represents what the company is about. It's too crude. You know, we develop high quality stuff here, stuff that actually works. The CFX gasifiers are now partially stainless steel, where it counts anyway. We've done away with the water tank. Now they're water injected with an electronic pump now, and that might even evolve later with a temp sensor and a more advanced nozzle chamber for the evaporation process. But you know, now they're all the parts that were surface, we had surface rust issue before, they're all stainless steel now. So that's part of the cost increase. But also the jet nozzle is a bit sophisticated to manufacture because it's all ported and stuff. But that and the cost of inflation, last time I did a price adjustment was 2020, before pre-pandemic. And then inflation hit, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then finally I had to do something this year, because last year we barely broke even. I was actually upside down. So I had to increase my my pricing in order to make this viable. But in order to help justify that cost and to really make it RTR, we have to supply the kit. So that's what I'm working on now, and this is going to be the VersiFire. So basically what we're going to build now is basically, this is the burner, and then I supply you with your vent tubes and then all your hardware, and then just here's a template for placing your tubes on your drums. Now it's not going to come with the drums. You're going to have to source some on your own. It's not viable for me to handle them because of the shipping cost. I buy these from McMaster Car, so I'm already paying McMaster Car pricing, and then factor the shipping, because it's like, I don't know, it depends on the time of year, but it can range anywhere from 50 to 100 or even more per drum. So I'm looking at $400 in shipping just to ship them here, and then I gotta pay for the shipping to ship it to you. So I'm paying double the shipping cost plus the high cost of a premium product from McMaster, right? So it's not viable for me to offer the drums. Now, what I'm probably gonna do in the future is I'll probably offer the drums brand new, unmodified, direct from McMaster. You can pay me, and then I'll drop ship them for free without any extra cost. But you'll have to pay the cost for McMaster, of course, up front. So I'll have to factor that in, and then we'll probably offer this as a standalone product without the gasifier, and I'll tell you why, because this thing's actually kind of cool, and you'll understand why we're going to call it the VersiFire too. So you'll be able to buy this as a complete kit, and then maybe I'll throw that in with an RTR version, but we'll have to charge for the cost to cover the barrels on top of what the current pricing is, which I'm afraid to do, because people see that pricing and then it might push it out of that price range. But I'm also considering breaking the CFX down into individual parts. Like we might offer the gasifier just as you see this one here, without any of the blower system, your ammo box filter, your hose kit, none of the valves. Like even this one's got the valve on it. I won't supply that. I'm basically just gonna supply you with what I manufacture. Like that door latch, it ain't gonna come with a door latch. It's not gonna come with wheels. It's basically just gonna come with all the weldments, and then you can buy all those stuff, and then you'll understand why this stuff costs. Why a machine costs $6,000. Because by the time I'm done doing this, and then I gotta mark everything up, you know. I don't just like order it and then handle it for free and then give it to you for nothing. You know, what's the point? You know, I gotta make something. This isn't a charity here. I gotta make a living and feed myself. And this dog eats, you know, 20 pounds worth of dog food a week. Gotta feed her, you know. And trust me, I'm not getting rich off this. I'm barely making enough to survive. Heck, I can't even afford to buy a house. I live in an RV outside my shop, my business, in order to keep my business alive. But as you guys know, I've been around since 2012. I ain't going nowhere. And I've been through worse times than what I'm going through here with this election year. Things are actually picking up pretty good now. We got plenty of orders coming in. Obviously, you know, I had the money to fund this. We got other stuff coming. A universal generator kit, which I've been trying to develop for years. I was doing this project, but that didn't pan out, so that's scrapped. So what we're gonna do, and I put a lot of thought in this, years worth of thought into this. And we're gonna come out with a universal kit that'll basically be sheet metal, and I'm basically gonna use the CFX as the foundation of the core design, but just changed up just the way I build it. But it's gonna be designed to hold the engine up, and then the generator head with a belt drive system. And you'll have the option, I'll have the bolt pattern to go from like a 212cc all the way on up to this V-twin and anything in between, right? So you'll have the option to do whatever you want with it. Yes, your initial investment will be a bit more. But here's the thing, like if you're gonna be using this every day, then you're gonna want this kit. If you're, you know, just need it for backup and occasional you know, power backup, then you're probably fine with an off the shelf generator. But if you're using a generator daily, you're gonna burn the generators up. And then every year you're gonna have to go down to wherever and buy a brand new generator, or pay to have that old piece of junk refurbished. And in my experience, it's really not, for what you get for what you put into it, it's just not worth it. You're better off just scrapping the thing and starting over with a new engine. So this is the idea here, is where, you know, when the engine needs to be overhauled, you're not going to throw the whole generator away. You're just going to pull off what needs to be replaced and replace it, right? So rather than, you know, spend $2,000 on a brand new generator every year, you're only spending, you know, $300-400 on a new engine, or even less than that. The 212s, I think you can buy those on sale sometimes for like $100. But I don't know, those days might be over with now with inflation. But you get the point, right? So, you know, and the idea is to make it easy so that it, you know, it's like 4 bolts, the engine pops off, put a new engine on, and you're good to go. You know. So that's going to be the idea of that. So we'll be working on that this fall. This September is the plan for that. So I got to get these two done and out the door. Those two are the first two. Those are twins. And these are the first two with the new water injection system installed. And that's why we're here doing this video, because I need to get this kiln built so I make charcoal to test that machine. So let's get to this. All right, so let's go through a little history of how we got here with this system here. So I'm gonna take you for a walk outside. Excuse the junk. Be cleaning up this fall here. Got some plans for this RV. I'm gonna turn that into a utility trailer. And then once I get this truck restored and on the road, then that Nova is gonna come in here and we're gonna put that on a rotisserie and rebuild it. But anyways, off point. Alright, so this little one here, this is the original proto, and I think I built this on camera. But as you can see, this is the basic concept. So you can see it's a drum inside of a drum, and then it's got that center tube, right? So I'm going to show you how to install that on the new version. And this is the lid, so you just put that lid on there and that's it. And then here you got an opening to the fire chamber. That's where you load it, and you just keep loading it until the evaporation process is complete, and then we start destructive distillation process of the organic materials or the wood that you have in your retort, right? And then those gases are flammable, and they're going to burn down below because of this tube, right? The gases are going to flow through that tube. They're going to shoot down to the fire chamber, combust, and supply the heat, and then the flames vent around the tube or around the retort, right? All right, so the first year we had this little setup. Hey, get over here! Come on. So we had this set up, and then I could put a flue pipe onto this, and we heated the shop that first year, and it worked great. That little thing could heat this entire shop, and even on the coldest days, right? So hindsight's 2020. I wasn't thinking about the second stage at this point, and using waste heat to prep the next fuel batch. So this is where I was here, and then evolved into the 55 gallon version, which basically this outer shell became the core for my retorts and my kiln. So then I stacked it, right? And I made a revision so that they could be stacked on top of one another. And that made it really super efficient, because you get that second stage past the water evaporation process and get all the moisture driven out of the fuel, and then once it's down into the retort, then it almost immediately takes off, and it doesn't require very much wood at all to convert the fuel to charcoal. So once you have that process established, it's a lot more efficient. So the problem with this is when you have these things stacked and they're full of fuel, those things are pretty heavy, and I'm getting older. My lower back isn't as strong as it used to be. So, and I'm sure there's other people out there that are going to buy this that are going to be in the same boat. So I'm going to go back, make it smaller, and if you want to produce what you could with that, just build 2 of those. Keep things easier on yourself. Alright, so I gotta put you on pause because I gotta get the dog back here. Okay, so we're back in the shop here. So as you can see, these are the vessels, the retort kilns that I had in that 55 gallon one. So these are going to be my outer shells for this guy here. I'm not going to buy them brand new since I already have them, and other than they're ugly with all the surface stress, those are still, there's plenty enough steel there. Them are going to last a while. I'll probably clean these up the best I can and just hit them with some high temp paint. And then my retorts, I did buy them brand new. So these are brand new drums. And then you're gonna need 3 lids, right? So your lids that come with the drums, you're probably gonna use them to create the bottom because we need to make these so that they're stackable. So we're gonna mount the lids to the bottom of the drums, and then that way they can sit on top of top of each other. And then because you just used your 2 lids, you're gonna need an extra one for the very top one. Now, when you have this built, like say maybe you just want to run it in like a campfire mode, but make charcoal at the same time, you don't have to run the second stage. You could just run it in a single stage mode. So you just have 1 barrel stacked, and then you could use it kind of like a fire pit. And yeah, making charcoal just for having a fire, right? Plus it would be really efficient. Alright, so that's one way to do it. Otherwise, yeah, you can stack it, and then we're gonna modify these guys here so that they can be stacked and complete the system. Alright, now when I first built this, I thought, man, that might work great as a smokeless fire pit. So that was the first thing I did with it, is I used it for a fire pit outside the trailer, and man, that thing actually works pretty good. Now what you can do, which is really cool, is you got your lid, right? All right, so mode 1, you can just have it just like that and just burn an open fire, right? Now, if you get it going really good, then you can put this lid on top, right? Now what happens is all the gases are forced out these vent holes, right? And then your intake air comes in these upside down triangles, right? That's your second stage air, and then these valves here are your primary, so these feed the heart at the bottom, and these feed air in the mix with the gases as they're escaping out these vents, and then we get our second stage burn. So it's pretty much smokeless when it's really going. It's about as smokeless as any other smokeless fire pit, right? All right, now you could convert this into a barbecue grill. And because we're using these barrels, you can get different sized barrels. And seems I have them already. I'm going to modify them. I'm going to cut the bottom out of that one and the bottom out of that one too. And that's going to become a fuel hopper for fire pit mode. And that's just going to have one of the lids on top of it. So I'm going to have these shorter drums in here, and they'll stand about, you know, so you see where that 2x4 is on the wall there? That's about how tall it'll stand, right? And then you could put a 18-inch grill on top of the smaller diameter, and that'll actually hold the grill up, and then the larger drum will keep it centered right in there, and then you got a barbecue grill. Yeah, and another thing too is when you have this in fire pit mode and then you put this on, it basically is making charcoal. So once all the wood's converted to charcoal, it's pretty much ready to cook. And then you just convert it to barbecue mode, put your grill on, and you can cook dinner. Then when you're done, take the grill off. Now you put this lid on top of the smaller drum, and that becomes basically a hopper for your fire pit. So you load this thing once and it'll burn all night. And the nice thing about that is even if you have wet fuel, it's gonna dry inside that. Once all the moisture is driven out, it's gonna burn clean, smokeless the whole night. So it's got that use, right? Now another thing you could use it for is a hot water heater. You put a hot water coil around your window shrouds, any of them really, and you can produce hot water. That be an incentive to run it every day is to produce hot water for, you know, when you get home from work, take a shower, do dishes, whatever. I mean, do you really need to have piping hot water around the clock, or just during when you actually need to use hot water? Basically this is free hot water, right? Alright, so that's basically the basic overview of all this. I mean, this is what you're gonna get in the kit. So let me ditch this stuff. You know, you don't get any of that stuff. You get all this stuff. So this is what's gonna come in your kit, right? Gonna come your burner pre-assembled, except for I'll probably have the well. I don't know if I'll actually. Let me take that back. I may not be able to fit it in the box. So if I can fit it in the box, we will of course put the valves on. If not, then they'll be inside. But not a big deal. Anybody can screw the valves on, right? And then your center pipes. You're gonna get 2 pipes. Of course, some are high dollar ones for McMaster car. Then your flanges, right? Then these here, this is actually, these are the drops. See these slots? These are the slots and that come out of that. And we're gonna reuse them. So I'm gonna revise the CNC program to punch a couple holes in this. And what we're gonna do is on your outer shrouds on the bottom side, we're gonna bolt this like this, so that when we stack them, it has something to guide it center and to keep it center on your lower drum. But you're gonna want to do that on the bottom side, because you're gonna want like when you're not using it, you want to put a lid like that on top of it, and that keeps rain out of the whole thing, right? And that'll keep it from rotting out. But you really shouldn't leave it in rain anyway. If you do, leave your valves open. And these are designed to be right at level with the floor in there. Maybe you can see this one better, right? So if water does get in here, it can drain. May actually want to drill a couple small holes in the bottom of this. I mean, this doesn't need to be airtight. I mean, it's literally got a hole, big huge hole on the top. Right? So, but anyways, it comes with your center tubes, and then this here is your template. Now, when we cut the center plate here, the flange plate, we get a drop, right? So this is the drop that we get from that, and rather than throw that away, we're going to give that to you with your holes already punched. So now you have a template. So don't ever throw this away, because you know these barrels are consumable. You know, maybe 2 to 5 years, maybe even longer. I mean, I've had these barrels for, I don't know, since 2018 I bought them, brand new. You know, it's 2025, and I've used them for, they originally were filters, and they became part of this retort design, and then now they're here, part of this retort design. So they're still usable. But anyways, so this template is designed to fit inside the lid, right? So what you're gonna do, don't use a drill, use a marker, a black marker, and spot all your holes, and then use a center punch, drill your holes out. Then what you can do, alright, now you want to get a gray marker. Now when you have the holes drilled in this will become, see how that fits in there? It fits perfectly in there. So now you can transfer those holes to the drum. Alright? Now what we're going to do is the easiest way to punch this big hole. It's a 1 3/8 hole saw, I believe. Let me set you down here. Alright, let me find the hole saw in a minute. This might not be the right one. Actually, it might be the 2-inch. Oh no, this is the size. This is a 1 3/8. Alright, so you see how that fits in there? And rather than use the center drill, just use the flange as the guide, and that will work a ton better for you. take the time to bolt that on there. Even though you got to unbolt it and flip it to the other side, it's worth the effort. But anyways, and then once we're done with it doing that, we're going to mount this to the inside. We're going to use these longer bolts. And there's a reason for that, and you'll see why later, I guess. But basically, you're going to have that, and then a nut here, and then another nut with a washer that'll be off this to make up for the gap between the lid and this. But we're gonna have it to where we're actually applying some tension so that it's kind of forced against the bottom. And if we have to, we'll tack weld it. But I'm gonna try to avoid that for those that can't weld or don't have access to a welder. But if you do have a welder, it'd probably be a good idea just to run I don't know, a couple 1/4 inch tack welds, assembly welds all the way around it, just to make sure it doesn't warp or anything. And you know, it might be a good idea, but it's that's an optional thing. So anyways, I'm gonna get to it. So now we'll start out with these guys here. So basically what you can see here is it's just basically a tube, right? I just took this 30-gallon drum and cut the bottom out right along this inside right here. And you want to keep this bottom lid, this lip ring intact, because that's what keeps the integrity of the drum. So you don't want to just cut that off. You want to cut the floor out from the inside. All right, so go back to this one. This is what I got to do to this one yet. So I got to cut my old floor out. And basically, this one has the lid conversion, and that was my first go around. That's how I did it. I tacked it on there, and so that's how I know that works, because I've done it before, right? Alright, once I'm done with that, then I can do what I just showed you with these guys, and this thing will be ready to run. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll show you what it looks like when that work is complete. Alright, so we are back. Alright, so I went ahead and did my shrouds. I'll show you that real quick. So, get out of the way, dum-dums. Alright, so they're stackable, and I installed, you can see the bolt here, and I installed the guide. So now my drums will just sit on top, and then I got my lid here, right? So that's just a big open tube, right? Alright, so now we're going to drill our holes. And I use my template here. So basically I just stuck this on here, get it centered, press it down, black Sharpie, you know, mark your holes like I have here. And now you're ready to start punch. Again, don't drill them out. You want that to remain accurate, and you want to keep that. You don't ever want to lose that. Now, center punch your holes. Alright, so now I'm going to use the drum as a way to drill them holes. because I got the drill bit in that hole saw still. Drill that pilot. Now, if you didn't have the pilot in there, you don't need to drill this hole. If you're planning on using the flange as a guide. Hardware. Alright, now these are just temporary bolts. These are what I'm going to use eventually, but right now we're not there. So I'm just going to bolt this on. I'll probably just use 2 bolts to hold it on. I don't need all 4. Alright, now so now we're ready for the hole saw. So make sure you're still going here. Alright, so now this makes this a lot easier. Alright, so now I just gotta do that for this one. So I'm gonna use this other plan. Right, so anybody can do this, right? Got a burn away here. Alright, so the bottom is pretty much the same process. Except for this time we're going to use the lid itself. I suppose you could use this if you wanted to. But see, this doesn't fit. Whoops. Sorry about that. See how this See, it doesn't fit like the lid. So it's better to use that just for the lid. And then we're gonna use the lid as our template. Right? So we'll go through that, but I'm not gonna drill that on camera. I just showed you how to do that with the lids, but it's the same exact process. I'll at least mark it. And hold on, I'm gonna pause you for a second because I'm gonna clean them burrs up. Okay, we're back. Alright, so I got my lid. Alright, so now what we're gonna do, make sure that this is on here. You run your fingers across. You want this as centered as you can. There is some play. And you should be able to feel, and go from, use the hole pattern actually, like for direction. Check it that way, and then this way. Once you got it close to the, as much as you can, the center. Now, if you don't want to use the flange as a guide, you don't want to punch the hole out in this, because you're gonna, well, I suppose you could line it up with the template, but you may want to have that center hole to put in here. But I'm gonna go ahead and remove the pilot in the hole saw, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one real quick. And then what I'll do is do this off camera. This video is probably going to be already long because I went through the history of this. So I'll try to keep this as short as I can. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and punch that and drill all those holes, and then we'll assemble it, and then we'll assemble the lids on the bottom, so there'll be bottom lids. I don't know how that works, but anyways. We'll get that done, and then we'll do the assembly and show you how it all goes together. Alright, so let me get that done and we'll come back. Alright, one down. Alright, so you can see my center flange there. Alright, so what you're going to do is on this bottom side, you're going to add a flange to each side of the bottom. So top and the bottom. And these ones that we're going to do on the bottom, they're just going to be there for spacers and integrity. The top one is actually going to be used as intended to thread a pipe into. So what we'll do is I'll flip this around so you can see it. Alright. So this is with the lid installed. So now, this will fit on top of the burner, like so, right? Alright, so that rubber gasket, I'm not worried too much. You can use like a heat gun to loosen the glue and then pull that out of there, but I'm just going to burn it out. It's going to smoke like crazy because it's rubber, but it is what it is. So I'm going to do this one here, and pointing back down here. Alright. Alright, so see all these burrs right here? I'm going to go grind them off real quick. Alright, so we got them. Now this one, we're just going to simply invert it. Make sure your bolts are tight. So I'm going to just double check, sure my bolts are all good and tight. Alright, so now I'm going to invert this one. You may have to bend your bolts a little bit. Right? So now my lid's ready. And so they're both just a fudge off, but it's not enough to really raise concern. Now I am afraid that this is gonna it's gonna warp. So there's two ways to do it to combat this. One is to drill holes around the outside and bolt through the floor to keep these rings together, right? Or you can weld it. So your choice, however you want to do it. If you don't want to weld it, then you're probably gonna want to drill some holes, and I'll provide bolts for that. Some 1/4 bolts, not a big deal. In fact, I'll probably just use we'll get the right size. Yeah, it's only because I can measure it from here. Actually, nope, it's the same size bolt. Actually, yeah. Oh, that's weird. Seems like I got a lot of access the other way. I don't know, might be an illusion. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tack weld them around just because I can, and that would be the easiest solution. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll go over the assembly. All right, so I'm gonna put you on pause a minute. All right, guys, we're back. All right, so now the work's all done. We have our lids moved to our bottom, all adapted. Got the lid channel here tack welded, and then just went every I think that's what every 30 degrees all the way around. And then because I got it hot, I took the seal out of there. All right, so I'm gonna set you guys down and we'll assemble this real quick just to show you how it all goes. And I'm gonna probably have to back up here. gonna have to do the adjustment on camera here. Alright, so here's your low drawer, right? You know, it would help if you got out of the way. So yeah, when you get it, everything's gonna be real stiff, but trust me, after you've cycled this thing a couple times, it'll loosen up. So anyways, so what you're gonna do is you'll set one where your core is in, fill that up with whatever. Oh wait, oops, one last thing. Got our vent tubes. Just hand tight is plenty. If you ever want to get that out of there, even hand tight would probably be too much. Same thing with your valves. You want to have your valves positioned, even if they're kind of loose. Again, after you heat cycle this thing, they'll be permanent. So don't worry about that. Cobwebs on me. Alright, so I'm going to set the top here aside. Alright, so here is one mode. So you're going to fill this up, right? And then you'll put your lid on. Goes like so. Let it go. We're going to turn circle. Now this is our bottom shroud. So just simply now this is good and centered, right? Eventually it's going to break in. Alright, so you can run it just like that in a single stage mode. If you want to add the second stage, then you'll remove the lid. This is still full of wood. Now you got your top one. Now the top one has the lid. And now its vent tube is going to pass through to the lower. Now what's nice about that is the steam from this upper one will mix in with the volatile gas in the lower one, and that'll help it run a little cooler and be in more control. So we call, when it goes into gasification mode and it's really making good gas, we call that supernova mode. Because this thing will get so hot it'll melt a hole in it right. Alright, so that's plenty. Alright, so now I got my upper shroud. And then this is the one that's got the guides. Make sure you do it on the bottom. You don't want to do it on top, because if you want this in standby, you want to store it, you want to be able to put the lid on there. You don't want these tabs in your way, right? So you want to do it on this one on the bottom. You know, and this thing is big enough. It's already a bit to handle at this size, so as you can see, a 55 gallon setup isn't going to be very practical for most. Alright, now you put your lid on, and now it's in two-stage mode, and then this is a storage mode. So now you got the lid on there. I might have to make some adjustments to get that. The core looks like about ½ inch lower. I'll show you here. The lid isn't quite seating, and that's because it's riding on that, right? But it's a prototype. That's actually good enough. As long as it centers, I'm fine with that. I just want to keep the majority of the rain out of it. It is going to get some, as the rain drains down the sides, it's going to get in through here. So yeah, keep your valves open so it can drain, and if you can, just keep it out of the rain, But that's it. I mean, there's nothing to it. Everybody can build this. It's just a matter of drilling some holes and bolting some parts together, and then cutting the bottom out. And you could use an angle grinder, which is going to be easiest and fastest. A little more danger factor though, if you're fairly new with an angle grinder. Be careful. Wear a face shield. Because if a wheel explodes, them things can really mess you up. But otherwise, you can use a sawzall, like a reciprocating saw, like I had to use yesterday because I was out of cut-off wheels, so I had to bust out the DeWalt, and I got a bunch of used up blades that are pretty much worthless. I have butter knives in the house that are sharper than them things. Alright, so yeah, so I think I'm gonna conclude this video. Sorry for my crappy video productions, but it's not what I do. Maybe someday I'll be able to afford to have done professionally. But yeah, if you're expecting that out of me, that ain't ever gonna happen. Alright, so yeah, next video is I'm gonna be firing this up, but I gotta process wood, so we're gonna do that in a separate video, and probably later tonight. Shouldn't take me too long. So we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.